Hi, I'd like to share with you an extremely important distinction that I think many people don't get. I met somebody today, and in the conversation, he told me, my wife doesn't like me. And I said, what do you mean? So he tells me about an event and a conversation that he had with his wife, and in that situation, she told him she doesn't like him, or she gave off the vibe that she doesn't like him. And I asked him, I said, is there any time that your wife does like you? He says, yeah, generally, besides that time. And this can happen many times. So in other words, because sometimes his wife doesn't like him, his wife doesn't like him. And that's how he really sees it. He doesn't see that his wife doesn't like a behavior that he did, or his wife doesn't like some part of him, or something. He understands his wife does not like him. So in order to describe it to him, I explained to him, he has a child. And I asked him, do you like your child's Pampers? He said, of course not. I said, do you like your child's cries at night? He said, of course not. I say, do you like your child? He says, sure. So I said, so it's possible to like your child, even though you don't like a certain part of it. I said, let's take it back to your wife. Do you like your wife's sweating? He says, of course not. I say, do you like your wife? He says, of course. So I said, you don't have to like every single part of somebody to love them. Just because something about them you don't like doesn't mean you don't like them. Well, let's apply the same concept to anxiety. You see, there's this distinction, which we tell our kids, right, which makes all the difference. You're a bad kid, or what you did is bad, will totally create and change a different kid. As long as the child understands that what they did is wrong. Look, my son came home with a report card, and to me, when you look at the report card, the right side is the grades, left side is, effort, behavior, and so on, and he really flunked it on the left side. And I remember back in the day, my father didn't even look at the right side of the report card. But if that left side of the report card, behavior and effort, was off, so help us. So in essence, I see it very, very similarly. The challenge in this case was that my son flunked on the left side of the report card. Now, I wanted to make sure that he should know I'm very displeased. But if the message would have been, you're a bad kid, you don't try, you need improvement in your behavior in the classroom, it would have probably traumatized him for life. So I said, I'm not happy with your behavior. The way you're acting, the way you're trying is no good. You're a good kid was the message. Your behaviors need to be improved, which changes the whole dynamic. Now, let's bring it to anxiety. There is a 180-degree difference between I am my anxiety and I have anxiety. See, if anxiety is me and I came to that situation where I totally feel that I am anxiety and that describes me, and that's how I see myself as an anxious person, it's very, very hard to separate yourself from it because you now are one with it. However, it's a whole different ballgame if you're a normal person who has anxious tendencies. We can let go of anxiety. We can let go of patterns. We can let go of tendencies. I want you to understand that there's an enormous difference between anxiety clinically in the diagnostic and statistical manual health disorder is considered an axis 1 and not an axis 2. In other words, there are disorders that are like, I would describe it, at least in my understanding, as an outside disorder. I'm a healthy person who has a bad program running. And anxiety fits into that category. So it's not me. There's me and there's the problem. It's two different things. So is fear, so is panic, so is stress. Then there's different classification of what's known as personality disorders. The way I understand them, that's when it becomes part of the human being. And now it's much, much harder to separate the person from it, so we teach people how to manage it. So at least that's my understanding. I'm not speaking for the whole world of mental health and understanders, but my understanding is it's whether you are still separate from your problem or you're already one with your problem. Now, there are different ways to deal with both, but we're talking about now anxiety, fear, panic, stress, and associated depression. And the reason why I say associated depression, because it's not a little. Studies show as high as 85% of people who struggle with anxiety have coexisting depression. So it is part of the picture when people are struggling with anxiety. Now, where does the depression come from? Because how long could you deal with anxiety if you have panic and stress? How long could you be held back from your dreams? How long could your life be made smaller? How long could you live in limitations and locked up and not feel free before you start becoming depressed? Now, especially if you try different technologies, different situations, different ways and interventions, and you still didn't get better, now it leads to depression, because depression is helplessness and hopelessness. But there's a big difference whether you see yourself as anxiety or you notice that you have an outside pattern. And it's extremely important. There's different ways that it gets described in therapies and in interventions, how you could become the observer versus the actual problem. So a lot of mindfulness and a lot of different skills that we're going to work through in some of these videos will help you decipher and determine and learn how to actually apply this skill of being outside and seeing the anxiety and not getting stuck. Because the way I describe it is when somebody has anxiety, right? So your brain knows you're really safe, but then you, if not, you would call an ambulance. You wouldn't try to get help for your anxiety. So you know that it's anxiety. So think of it this way. Half of your brain knows that you have anxiety. The other half of the brain screams boo and scares you to death. So one half of your brain is running away from the other half of your brain. That's really what's going on. That means half the brain knows I'm safe, so I'm not going to the emergency room, and I'm just stressed out, and I know I'm not having a heart attack because I'm not going to a medical doctor or calling an ambulance, but yet I'm stressed out, or I'm afraid about something, or I'm concerned about something. But as much as I know I'm really okay, I'm stressing and I'm nervous because what am I nervous of? Because this side of my brain. So when I avoid going to a place where I'm going to feel bad, think of it. I'm avoiding going somewhere because I'm afraid that this side of my brain is going to scream boo and this side of my brain is going to get afraid. That's really what I'm scared of. I'm scared of my own feelings, right? When I avoid public speaking, who am I afraid of? I'm afraid that I'm going to scare myself to death. If I'm afraid of flying, I'm afraid that I'm going to get on a plane and this side of my brain is going to scream boo and this side of my brain is going to run away. Think about it. It sounds nutsy. It really sounds weird that I'm afraid of my brain. So my brain is not in sync. So half of my brain is scared of another half of my brain. So half of my brain is running away from another half of my brain. So I do things in my life to accommodate the other half of my brain. Now, I'm not in any way saying that this is crazy or nuts because I have lived with this myself. I know exactly what it's like. And most people in the world live with it. I'm just trying to make the point how abnormal it's when you break it down. It's unfortunately normal. It's almost more normal to have this problem than not to have this problem. Pretty close. I mean, we're talking about the percentage is extremely, extremely high for people to struggle. I think there was a study done with 500,000 people in like 27 countries, and it's like 38% of society. So you're talking about very, very high numbers of people who struggle with these things. So it's almost as normal, as normal. So we don't consider these things crazy because they're not. But the breakdown of it almost sounds, and the reason why I'm presenting it that way is understanding it will give you a lot of relief in the process, because when you simply recognize that you're scared of you're not scared of something from the outside. That's why it's so troubling. Because if you're scared of somebody or something, they'll pass and then you'll be fine. But if you're scared of you, there's nothing really you can do about it because you're stuck with your head. Going on vacation, if you're scared of a beer, go to a location where there's no beer and you'll be fine. But if you're scared of you go with you. So going to vacation is not helpful because your head goes with you and the part of your head that you're scared of travels with you. That's why anxiety winds up becoming so problematic. Because I can avoid something possibly that's dangerous for me or my body perceives as dangerous for me. But what's the problem if I travel with this screamer? This alarm is plugged into my own head. And it goes with me wherever I want. So really from anxiety, fear, panic, and stress, we get no relief because it's us going with us. One half of our brain is scared of the other half of our brain. And the other half of our brain scares to death this half of our brain. So we got to make them work together. So we got to take our logical brain and our emotional brain and make peace. Because that's when we run into trouble, is when we have internal conflict. Two systems within us don't work in sync. So it's not a big deal. It doesn't mean that your brain is broken or something's destroyed. It just means You need to be able to learn how to manage it. And that's what we're going to accomplish in this program. We're going to understand it well, and then we're going to deal with it. We're going to roll up our sleeves, get into it, and achieve the goal of overcoming anxiety, fear, panic, and stress, because that's what you need to create and live the life you desire and deserve. Thanks for watching this video. See you on the next one.